In this post, I will be discussing what I believe is a growing and powerful anti-democracy and authoritarian movement in the United States. Those forces have always been present, as discussed in Robert Kagan's recent book called Rebellion that was published today, which I've started to read. Many years ago, when listening to a lecture in college about Stalin and Hitler, the professor mentioned that authoritarian leaders could come to power in the United States. It does not take that many people when so many are apathetic and generally uncommitted in any significant way to protecting a democracy from authoritarian forces. The danger in the United States has never been more acute than it is now. I'm going to discuss some recent actions taken by Republican parties in Washington and Arizona. I'm referring to Washington State, not Washington, D.C. there. The Republicans in Washington State recently met to come up with their party's platform. Among the clearly anti-democracy policies advanced by the Republicans was to advocate for the repeal of the 17th Amendment that allowed voters to elect senators rather than the state legislatures, advocating for the elimination of all mail-in and early voting, and a demand that Republicans cease using the word democracy, which they find offensive. A resolution was adopted that the Republicans, quote, oppose legislation which makes our nation more democratic in nature, end quote. See article, quote, the WAGOP put in writing that they're not into democracy, end quote, published on April 24, 2024 by the Seattle Times newspaper. The Republicans in Arizona have elected their two nominees to the Republican National Committee. They are Jack Huffman and Liz Harris. Huffman is a Arizona state senator who was indicted just recently in Arizona's 2020 election subversion criminal case. The indictment came down before the Republicans nominated him to represent the party in the Republican National Committee. Among other acts, Huffman wrote a letter to Mike Pence asking him to reject the certified election results from Arizona that had Biden winning the state and authorizing the Republican legislature in Arizona to send their own fake electors for certification on January 6. Huffman was one of the fake electors, and that's the reason he was indicted by a grand jury. Through his digital marketing company, Rally Forge, Huffman had formed a fake left-wing front group in an attempt to divide Democrats. See article titled, quote, revealed right-wing firm post as leftist group on Facebook, end quote, published in June of 2021, and, quote, analysis of an October 2020 Facebook takedown linked to U.S. political consultancy Rally Forge, end quote, published by the Stanford University Cyber Policy Center. Liz Harris, the other representative chosen by the Arizona Republicans to the Republican National Committee, was expelled from the Arizona House of Representatives in April 2023 after secretly calling an insurance salesman to testify about unsubstantiated claims against public election officials and other public officials. Among the false allegations made by this insurance salesman was that public officials in Arizona had accepted bribes from the Sonora drug cartel. See the following articles: Arizona state senator indicted in fake elector scheme and expelled state legislator are tapped for RNC position, published on April 29, 2024 at CNN, and, quote, just when you think the Arizona Republican Party couldn't get any crazier, end quote, published on April 28, 2024 at AZ Central, which is the Arizona Republic newspaper. None of the foregoing is surprising anymore, of course. It's just normal for what the Republicans do constantly now. After all, the Republican Party and Republicans nominated Trump as their nominee and leader, a candidate who they know attempted to prevent the peaceful transfer of power by urging Republicans to storm the U.S. Capitol on January 6, and then called the rioters heroes and patriots, who created a scheme to create false electoral slates in key states, who asked officials in some states to find him more votes, who attempted to persuade the Vice President Pence not to accept the state-certified election results. And those are just some of the actions that are clearly authoritarian in nature and are just connected to the January 6th congressional acceptance of the state election results. I'm not going to discuss in detail here the enduring and critical parts of the Republican anti-democracy strategy, which I've discussed previously. And just to summarize briefly, I'm referring to the creation by Trump and many other Republicans of an Orwellian world where their followers are now permanent residents, where Trump's false statements and narratives are believed, notwithstanding making over 30,000 false and misleading statements during just his 4 years as president. And those false statements form the basis of opinions on policy matters. While accurate information, inconsistent with those opinions, are dismissed or ignored as fake news spread by enemies of the people. A democracy cannot function when a large percentage of the electorate has been immunized from accepting any facts. The spawning of fact-free conspiracy theories, which is now the new normal, that are inconsistent with what I used to believe were conservative values in America and democratic norms, flourish in that Orwellian world where the creators are many, but the primary offender and the most successful one is the Republican representative for president in 2024. It is important, in my opinion, to quit calling these Republicans conservative. It is an insult to the true conservatives. They are doing everything conceivable, leaving no stone unturned to undermine America's democracy and the institutions necessary for its proper functioning. Telling over 30,000 false and misleading statements over a 4-year period is just not consistent with what is used to be known in America as conservative values.